Hello and welcome to another Tunisian crochet pattern tutorial. So today we will be making the Rose Dream Entrelac Shawl, and we will be using, or the original sample was done using sheep cheese, Secret Garden, and this is a really nice silk, cotton and polyester blend. So for the original sample I used 5.5mm Tunisian crochet hook. Today I will be using 8mm Tunisian crochet hook and bulky weight yarn. So the shawl is made or is created in rows of triangles and squares that are joined to each other in rows. Then you will bind off at the end of each row or section rather, and then you will rejoin the yarn at the beginning of the next row. So if you are using variegated yarn like the one I used, you will get this beautiful colored effect. So without further ado, let's dive in. The crochet pattern is worked over 10 plus 3 stitches. So for the original sample you would chain 113. For this sample I'm going to chain less to be able to demonstrate the basic stitches and techniques quicker. So I'm only going to do a few repeats of the basic pattern. So we will start with a slip knot. You will insert the hook into the slip knot, tighten it up, and then you will yarn over and pull through, and that counts as a chain 1. Okay, then you go yarn over, pull through, that's chain 1, and you will continue chaining for the desired number of stitches. So I will meet you at the end when I've chained enough for the small sample. So once you chain the row of chains that you need for your project, you will then start working the first panel, the foundation panel. So this consists of one triangle on the right edge, one triangle on the left, and we will be working a squares of stitches in between. So we'll start working the row number 1. So the row number 1 is very easy. We will insert the hook into the back bump of the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we've got 2 loops on the hook, and we will work standard return pass. So for all the stitches in this project, the standard return pass is standard return pass with a decrease. So normally you would yarn over and pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. However, for this project you will always do yarn over, pull through 2. For row number 2 we will start with Tunisian full stitch in the next space. So Tunisian full stitch is always worked in the space between stitches. So in this case we've got the edge stitch here, there was another stitch that we decreased, and the space between is here. Yarn over, pull up a loop. We will then skip the edge of the work and we will insert the hook into the next back bump of your foundation chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. We've got 3 loops on the hook, again working standard return pass, which is yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's it for row number 2. For row number 3 we will start with Tunisian full stitch again. So Tunisian full stitch into the next space, yarn over, pull up a loop. We will then work Tunisian simple stitch into the next stitch. Tunisian simple stitch is worked by inserting the hook from right to left under the front vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. We will again skip the edge of the work and work a stitch into the next back bump of your chains. So now we have 4 loops on our hook. For row number 3, again yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to the beginning of the work. For row number 4 we are maintaining the same kind of stitch pattern. So starting with the Tunisian full stitch, Tunisian simple stitch into the next 2 front vertical bars, and working into the next chain. Now we've got 5 loops on the hook, so we are each row has a one more loop on the hook after the forward pass, and working return pass like so. So now we are on row number 5, and as you probably guess, we will then again work Tunisian full stitch, Tunisian simple stitches into the next 3 front vertical bars, and picking up another loop into the back bump of your chain, the next chain. So as you can see, row number 5 has got 6 loops. We are continuing with working standard return pass. Okay, and now for the row number 6, this is the final row of the triangle where we are adding stitches. Again, Tunisian full stitch into the first space, Tunisian simple stitch into the next 4 stitches, 2, 3, and 4, and picking up stitch in the next chain like so. So the total is 7 stitches. So I forgot to mention at the beginning, but this project can be actually worked with your ordinary crochet hook rather than specifically Tunisian crochet hook. So if you don't have Tunisian crochet hook at home, you can make this project just using a standard crochet hook, provided that the shaft of your hook is smooth, that it hasn't got any bumps that are on the ergonomics crochet hooks, because you will only ever work with 7 loops or 7 stitches on your crochet hook. So this was just a little note, and we are going to work standard return pass again. Row number 7 is going to be slightly different. So for row number 7, we will work Tunisian slip stitch across in each stitch, including the chain from which we picked the last stitch of the previous row. So Tunisian slip stitch is worked by inserting the hook and the front vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull it through the hook or the loop on the hook. So if you've worked a Tunisian crochet projects before, then you would know this is also known as Tunisian simple stitch bind off. So some crochet books describe this as a slip stitch bind off, some as a Tunisian simple stitch bind off. So we are going to work into the chain and bind off the chain as well. So this was the right edge triangle, and I'll meet you back for the squares that we'll be working next. So welcome back. So we have, after the triangle, we have 1 loop left on the hook, and now we will pick up the stitches into the next 6 chains, so for the total of 7 loops on your hook. So you are going to go into the next back bump, yarn over, pull up a loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, like so. So we have the total of 7 loops, and followed by standard return pass. This was row number 1. For row number 2, we will work Tunisian simple stitches into the next 5 stitches, and then pick up another loop in the back bump. So we will work 5 Tunisian simple stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to pick up another stitch in the back bump. So for the total of 7, again standard return pass. So this is row number 2, and you will then repeat row number 2 3 more times. So rows 3 to 5 of the square will be repetition of row number 2, and I will meet you back at the end of row number 5. So again, rows 3 to 5 of the square are repetition of row number 2. Okay, welcome back. So I finished the row number 5. I'm now going on to row number 6, and row number 6 is the bind off row for the square. So again, we will work the Tunisian simple stitch bind off into each stitch, including the chain that we picked up the last stitch of the row number 5, and like so. So we've got the triangle, we've got the square, and now you will repeat the square pattern for how many repeats you worked in your foundation chain up to the last 6 chains. So I've chained for one more repeat. So for my project I will need to repeat one more square, and then I will have last 6 chain left, and that's where we worked the triangle on the left hand side. Okay, welcome back. We've got last 6 chains left. We will pick up stitch in each of the back bumps for the total of 7. So this is the first row of the left edge triangle. We're picking up stitches in each back bump like so. So we will have 7 loops on the hook, and we'll work standard return pass like so. Okay, so this was row number 1. For row number 2 we will work Tunisian simple stitch in each. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 5 loops on the hook, and then we will, because this was a decrease, so this became 1 stitch, we'll work the end stitch into the last stitch. The end stitch is worked under both strands of yarn of the last stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. So now we have 6 loops on the hook, and we will work standard return pass. Okay, so this was row number 2. For row number 3 we will repeat the same pattern. So we will work Tunisian simple stitch into each stitch across up to the last stitch. This is again decreased, and we will work the last loop under the both strands of the yarn of the end stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. So now we've got 5 loops on our hook. For the next row we'll again work loop into each stitch and work the end stitch, over, pull up a loop. We've got 4 loops, so this is row number 4, yarn over, pull through 2 like so. For row number 5 pick up this loop in the next stitch and an end stitch, so that's 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now for row number 6 we will work the next loop in only in the end stitch like so. We've got 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is basically the bind off of the last stitch. So we will then cut the yarn, pull it through. Welcome back for the panel number 2. So for this panel we will be joining the yarn back at the beginning of your work, so where we work the first triangle or the right edge triangle. So we will be starting, in this case we will be starting with a square. So we will insert the hook here on the top. This is where we're going to rejoin the yarn. So this is the top of the triangle. This is where we will rejoin the yarn for the first row. Okay, so I'm adding another color just for you to be able to see different sections clearly. And now we will work under both of the strands of yarn of the bind off row of the triangle. So we'll be inserting the hook under both of these, yarn over and pull up a loop. Okay, so we will do that 5 times in total. So you will insert the hook under the top 2 strands of yarn of the bind off row. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more, 5, and then we need to join it onto the square of the first panel. So we will be working into the first space of the square, we'll be using the right edge to anchor the squares onto each other. So you will insert the hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop. So we've got 7 loops on the hook. Work standard return pass like so. Okay, here. So then for row number 2 we will work Tunisian simple stitches into the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and working into the space of the next row on the square. So we'll be inserting the hook here, yarn over, pull up a loop, 7 loops. We will yarn over, pull through 2 like so. For the next square, for row number 3 we will repeat row number 2. So we will be working Tunisian simple stitches into the next 5 stitches and anchoring the square or the row against the row number 3 of the square that is adjacent to it. Like so. And row 4 and 5 we work similarly, so we are repeating row number 2 of working 5 Tunisian simple stitches and anchoring the square in the adjacent square of the foundation panel. Similarly for row number 5 we do exactly the same. Now we are on the top of the square here, almost like so. And then for row number 6 we will be binding off, so we will need to work the Tunisian simple stitch into the next stitch. So we will bind off the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we will be also inserting the hook under the first bind off stitch of the adjacent square, yarn over and pull through the loop on the hook, and this secures the squares onto each other like so. Okay, you will then continue working squares up to at the end of the panel or up to the end of the row, where you will end up on the top of the left edge triangle from the foundation section. So into each space you will work square similarly to how we worked the first square. So you will pick up the stitches along the bind off row, and then you will be anchoring it onto the edge of the adjacent square. Welcome back. I am now on the last row of my final square for the second block, where we only worked squares. So I'm just going to show you how to finish off this panel. So you will be working the Tunisian simple stitch bind off in all stitches like so, and then you will insert the hook into the top of the left hand triangle. Insert the hook, pull it through, cut your yarn, and this will be the end of the second panel. So I'll see you on the third panel. Welcome back for the third panel. I'm again going to be using a different color to highlight the differences and where we work the stitches. So we've inserted the hook into the base of the first stitch of the second panel, so we'll be joining the yarn for the third panel in exactly the same spot. You pull through the yarn and we chain 2. That's 1 and 2. So this is for the row number 1. So we will start with inserting the hook into the second chain from the hook, but also into the, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, also into the edge, right edge of the adjacent square. So that's the square that is in silver. So these first 2 stitches are a bit tight, so we also insert the hook behind this. So we've got 3 loops on our hook. We will then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we work the square in a similar then we work the triangle in a similar way that we worked the first triangle. So we start with Tunisian full stitch, Tunisian simple stitch into the next stitch, and we are anchoring the triangle against the square in the panel 2, like so. So for the row number 2 we've got 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. For the next row, row 3, we start with Tunisian full stitch, 2 Tunisian simple stitches, and anchoring the triangle against the square, and standard return pass. Again, the same for row number. For the following row, start with Tunisian full stitch, Tunisian simple stitch into the next 3 stitches, and working the last stitch into the square. So we've got now 6 loops, and we yarn over, pull through 2. Finally, for row number 5, again we start with Tunisian full stitch, simple stitch in the next 4 stitches, and working into the first bar of the square. So now we've got 7 loops. This is the last increase row, and the row number 6 will be worked as bind off row. So we will, similarly to previous sections, we will be binding off the square, working each bar. And now, instead of as in the first square, working into the chain that we worked the last stitch into, we will now work into the first stitch of the square and the both of the bars. So where we bind off the first bind off stitch of the square below, yarn over, pull through, like so. And now we will be working the squares as we work the squares in the second panel. So this is in the gray color. So you will start working the stitches into the bind off stitches, and then you will anchor the square against the right edge of the panel 2 squares. So you can work your squares, and I'll meet you on the side where we will work the triangle. Okay. So welcome back. We are now on the left edge triangle of the panel 3. So I bound off my last square for this panel. Now I've got 1 loop left on the hook, and I'm going to work into the slip stitches or into the bind off stitches of the square below. So I'm going to pick up 5 stitches, 3, 4, and the last one, 5, and the last stitch. So I've got 6 loops on the hook, and the last stitch will be worked into the very last stitch of the first triangle, or the triangle below. So we are going to work a stitch there. So we've got 7 loops on our hook, and we will work standard return pass. Okay, and now we will be repeating rows 2 to 6 of the left edge triangle of the foundation section. So we are going to be picking up stitches Tunisian simple stitches along the stitches of the first row of the triangle. So now we've got 5 loops, and the last will be the end stitch of the row below. So now we've got one less stitch. We've got 6 loops or 6 stitches. We'll work standard return pass, and again picking up Tunisian simple stitches up to the decrease. So where we've got the decrease stitch, we will then just pick up the end stitch. So now we've got 5 loops, for the next row we will pick up only 2 Tunisian simple stitches and an edge stitch or end stitch. Got 4 loops. Now we're going to have 3 loops, and the last one, the last row is only worked into the end stitch, yarn over and pull through both. Okay, so these are the foundation section or the foundation panel, second panel or the second section where we only worked square. So this is in the silver, and then the third panel or the third section, this would be in the turquoise. Rest of the pattern you will be repeating the second panel of squares, and then the third section, the one in the turquoise. So after this you'll be joining again on this tip here on the right hand side, and just worked squares on the top of this, and then you would repeat the third section with the triangles on each side. And that's it. That's how you work the entrelac stitch pattern in the Tunisian crochet. So you can work this flat, and you can also work this in the round. I will make a video tutorial how to make this stitch pattern in the round in one of my future videos. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.